Good morning. Hi, my name is Denny Allen with Healing Hope Ministries, and I just felt led to come on and just share a little bit. Um, just wanted to talk about basically three different topics that are very, very prevalent in people's lives currently with this current pandemic that we are honestly experiencing as a globe all around the world. And just wanted to just share a little bit from my heart on three different topics. And those are physical isolation, the importance of communication, and the uncertainty, unknown of honestly all of our lives. And I'd just like to share a little bit of, from my perspective, and just talk about these three different things just a little bit, just to get some discussion going, and hopefully that we can bless each other through these very challenging times. So I'd just like to start with the physical isolation for a lot of those people in different nations especially. I live in the United States of America, live in South Dakota, and I know a lot of other countries are experiencing and have experienced tremendous amount of isolation. Those that have been quarantined into their homes for many, many days on end, and that these things have serious impacts in our lives, emotionally, physically, and just some different things that we as a community can talk about and share with each other, things that are blessing each other in these very difficult times, and just start some conversation basically. So that physical isolation can look really different for a lot of people. Some people that are introverts, really, they may not be impacted as deeply. Those that are very outgoing and dependent on social gatherings and all these things that have been normal in their lives, that gets abruptly changed and they can't do that. It's an incredible challenge for them to adjust to what they've been put into, these circumstances that honestly are out of all of our control. So I just love different, please feel free to comment below, talk about things that are blessing you, that you're maybe using some time now that you did not have previously. And also put your comments in that things that you need prayer for, or areas of your life that you're needing support. The second thing, and a lot of that inside there is obviously got to do with the second point of communication. Just because we're physically isolated, it does not, in most cases, remove our ability to communicate. And say you're living alone, and maybe you don't have telephone service where you're at, but you still have internet access and all these incredible technologies that we have in today's world. There's so many different things that you can do to engage in communicating with the world and friends, but don't discount those times that you can spend in prayer, and slow your mind down, slow down the scrolling, the looking through the feeds. Not that you don't care about other people's lives, say on Facebook or whatever, but there's a tremendous amount of panic and uncertainty that is being sown in some of those arenas of communication. And I do understand. I was having a discussion with family members yesterday, I believe, about this, and not to judge those people either if you're looking through their scrolls, because honestly, they're trying to communicate. They are expressing things that are heavy on their mind, heavy on their heart, and they're doing their best to get that out. And sometimes it doesn't come out the way it should, or we may not perceive it the way the typing the message, the person typing the message out, or even this video. People may perceive it or understand it in a way that I did not intend different words to come out. So just give extra grace during this time when people are doing their best to try to communicate and share their worries, their anxieties, their needs, and all their concerns. So that communication piece, I can't highlight that enough, how important that is. So the social media is a good aspect of way to let things out. Just be careful what you're taking in. And if you have a prayer life, if you come across some of those posts that are like this person's out of touch, or these judgmental thoughts start coming into your mind, just step back, take a moment, and just pray for that person. Because you really don't know what their circumstances are and what they're trying to communicate. It could be completely different than what you're perceiving or reading into their communication. And the third point, just to touch briefly on, is the absolute uncertainty and the unknown, say, of the days we have ahead. There's all kinds of every day there's hourly updates, there's daily updates, there's daily briefings from our government, and things changing rapidly changing. And just pray for our leaders. Pray for the community leaders. Pray for your mayor, your city council, your people on the school boards. We're stepping into things that, honestly, we have not dealt with something this, I believe, for over 100 years at a global scale like this. So there's tremendous amount of uncertainty and that fear that can step in there, that open door for fear. So I'd just like to share a little bit what God has kind of laid on my heart about these three things, and some of the things that my wife and I have learned, and my family members, my extended family and friends have learned through tragic loss in our lives on these three different topics. Starting with the physical isolation, where you have loss and are deeply grieving. A natural tendency is to turn inward and to isolate. And that's more, a lot of it can be physical. You just don't want to be around people anymore. But more so in a mental and emotional capacity, where you tend to turn in. And some of that, I completely understand, is natural and does have benefit early on. But what I'd like to communicate to you and have people share their thoughts on this topic of the physical isolation and the impact it's having on our lives, on different things that they have done in their life to move through. Not get over anything, but to move through it so you're not sitting and stuck. Um, a large part of what has blessed my family through some very tragic losses in our lives has been number two, the second thing that I've touched on earlier, communicating. And that, to me, the easiest way to begin this conversation is telling your story. Right now, our stories are developing. Every single one of us has a unique story that's being written out right now. And I truly believe this can be incredibly detrimental to our future. And I'm talking physically and mentally and emotionally. If we don't have conversations like this and help each other right now, currently, as these stories are beginning to be written out. Other nations, they've been writing their story. This story's been written. We're March 23rd today. So there's been a lot of struggle around the globe for months. And those people that are stepping out, that are maybe through some of the worst of this current epidemic that's going around the world, and they're sharing some of their stories about what they did and how they grew closer as families and closer to God and used their time in amazing ways after they got through that first initial phase of the physical isolation and the emotional isolation. And moving through that, they've been able to tell their story to bless us now that are on the other side of this, where we may be just stepping into this isolation phase, a lot of unknown, a lot of fear in our communications. So if we can learn from each other and bless each other, and a major way we can do that is by sharing our testimony. Just sharing what we have walked through and how God has used different things, but to not just focus completely on the horrific event, but look at the whole story. So I don't want to get this too long, but I think there's so much that we can do with each other and honestly for each other during this very challenging time. And I just hope to encourage that part of this story. Not to discount anything that's currently going on in people's lives, but to help arm each other with tools, with hope, with setting our frame of mind correctly, that we're going to move through this. There will be another side, another part of this story, and to help shift that, not just on day-to-day, constantly focusing on every single update, every single thing. And I just pray that God will use this in mighty ways to help people communicate. And when people are starting to communicate, part of that communication is sharing a lot of their dismay, their fear. Do not judge that part of a person's communication. Just stay there long enough to be with them so you can bless them and help them shift their story, maybe just 1 degree. The worst thing I feel we can do is to critically jump on someone that has started their communication process, but it might not be something that you want to hear. You don't like it. So I just encourage you to have use your ears more and slow our responses down, where we can honestly just bless people by letting them tell their story. That's been a major healing thing in my life, and my wife's life, and my family's life, of hundreds of our friends and our family listening to our story. As many times we said it over and over and over, and we're still saying it. But my wife Carrie and I have been blessed by a lot of people giving us that space to tell our story. And we've been tremendously blessed and healed. Our lives will never be the same after our particular tragedy and loss. But our story is constantly, it's still moving. And I pray that that can happen with your circumstance and the different things that every single one of us, the unique things that we're all walking through. And the last part, just to tie it up on the uncertainty and the unknown, as I alluded to a couple times about minute-to-minute updates, the technology we have today. I just look and think back to, say, maybe 1918, when the world was going through something extremely challenging also. And if we would have had the communication capabilities as a world to have instantaneous updates at our fingertips, to be put into our mind instantaneously with every single piece of data. And a lot of that data and news was horrendous. And it was, but there's other sides of this equation too. And that's probably the millions of kind acts that are being done right now that are not getting talked about, that aren't getting shared. Some of them are. But the overwhelming majority of the data is, I don't even have to say it, because every single person's seeing it right now on the news, on social media, in our own conversations, and I'm not discounting that because it's all happening. But I would just encourage each person just to slow down and share. If you have deep faith, and share that thing that anchors you. I'm sitting here looking, the thing that anchors you, and the hope that we can get from each other. It might be the exact timing that one of your friends needed you to pick up the phone, and not to tell them about what you're going through in a negative way, but to share something that has rooted you in hope. And every single one of us has the opportunity to do these things on a daily basis. And like I said, I'm in South Dakota in the United States. If things are going to develop in the United States, as I've watched them kind of transition globally in different nations, if those same things are going to transition here, as far as a lot of people maybe not being able to leave the house. The opportunity of the time that we will have once you get into your new routine for just a short season here, if that's to be. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. Implement some of these things. And when a person's name is laid on your heart, just send a Facebook message, a text, an email, a phone call, Facebook Live them. Share a favorite scripture and the biggest thing, listen. Call them up and ask them, what are your needs today? I might not physically be able to be with you. You know, you might have relatives. I've got relatives that live in Florida. I've got relatives that live on the other coast, in Washington, in California. And I'm hoping I can just spend more time building and visiting with family, friends, those loved ones that are placed on my heart. Just to have conversations, just to hear their voice. And the biggest thing is to reach out with the intention of letting them share their story from their perspective. And don't try to fix it for them. It's a critical piece. And that's tough for me. I'm a fixer. I've been a fixer all my life, which I think most people, that's natural tendency, that we lean into, that we hear something. Well, obviously the next thing is I've got to find the solution. Well, maybe just by you hearing something, maybe that was the solution. And that's something that I've learned over the last 7 years of my life that has been incredibly powerful in my life, of just listening and what that can do for a person. So there is tremendous amount of uncertainty and unknown for tomorrow. But what we do have is today. And I just felt called and led to do this little video. I wasn't anticipating it to be this long. So I really would appreciate your comments. Please list any prayer requests or concerns, or share your story. And I just pray that people, if they do start doing this and putting comments down below this video that we're going to share, that each comment would be given its proper space. And from the understanding of someone makes a comment, it's something they needed to release, to put out there, to start their communication process. And that is going to look different for every single person, because every one of us is unique. Every one of us has a different background and are on different paths. So I just ask that you would approach this with tremendous amount of prayer and grace, and that you would join in with me to make a positive impact on our future. And it's something we can do today. We can really do this today to benefit and bless dozens, hundreds, thousands, I don't know. But I do know every single family has a unique story. And I am excited to hear some of these stories, and excited to see what God is going to do with not only this, but all these different things that people are pouring out their gifts and their talents right now. So many companies are blessing individuals with free access to their software and their tools that people can utilize online in these very, very, very uncertain times. So, and I just, I couldn't even list them all. I don't want to just pick one or two that I've heard about, because I'd be leaving out probably 1,000. And if you're one of those companies, one of those individuals that are stepping up and just pouring out your talents and gifts, I commend you. And if you haven't yet and feel called to, you have no idea what impact that might have on the future of our nation, and the future of our globe even. So I just ask that you would join in with me and my wife Carrie. We're adjusting to life, trying to find our new normal with schools being called off in South Dakota, and trying to figure all that out, and homeschool, and still keep things moving in our business life and our personal life. And so I just ask that you would join in with us and share your stories, share your concerns, share your fears. It's okay that we do this. And if we can just do one thing, just meet each other exactly where we are, where the other person is. Meet them there for a moment just to step into their life without judgment and hopefully bless them and bring them through this. So God bless everyone, and look forward to engaging with hopefully a lot of new friends that I've never talked to or never met. And also just thank you so much for every single person that's been walking with Carrie and I and helped Healing Hope Ministries get to the point it is today. I'm sitting out in one of the spare rooms in the guest house that got completed last fall, and just been absolutely blessed the last 4 years of this adventure that we've been on. And we're hoping to bless people through social media and help them particularly in their walk with grief. So if you don't know much about our mission, please check out our website. Just Google Healing Hope Ministries, and you can learn a little bit about us, and we would honestly be honored to step in and help you move through the grief that you may be facing right now in these very trying times. The world is experiencing something that it's hard to even put it in a sentence. It's very large, but what's going to make a difference is us just banding together, sharing our stories, and just moving through this together. So God bless everyone, and look forward to communicating with you and listening to your stories and getting through this on the other side with everyone. So God bless.